Hey everybody, fellow debt slayers, this is Steven with Debt Free Results. It's Wednesday, August 20th around 1 o'clock. I wanted to talk about the Ramsey Baby-steps and then talk to you about some other slides in reference to becoming debt free. But the first baby step is to save $1,000 in an emergency fund. And that money I would recommend that you put that money in a high yield savings account so that if you ever had car issue, if your air conditioner broke, your washing machine, something to that effect, you would have money to pay for that bill. The second step is where you actually sit down and we build a budget and a roadmap on attacking your debt. Credit cards, car, home equity line of credit, tuition, medical bills, IRS, doesn't matter, everything but the mortgage. And we would list those from the smallest to the largest, and then we would attack those and have action items and dates and expectations and so on. The third step is where in a separate high yield savings account, you would have between 3 and 6 months of your household expenses in another savings account. So think of it this way. If you have $3,000 of monthly bills on your house, then you would save $18,000 and just leave it in a high yield savings account. In a separate account, you would still have that $1,000 because that would be your day-to-day emergency fund if you had one. And the other one would be if, let's say, someone lost a job or you became ill, something that was long-term so that you wouldn't be stressed, you wouldn't have anxiety, you wouldn't have sleepless nights, worrying about how to pay the bills over, let's say, a 3 to 6 month time frame. The fourth one is to invest 15% of your monies into investments for retirement. Fifth one is for college educations. If you don't have kids, then you would bypass step 5. Step 6 is to focus on your mortgage and pay off your house. And then step 7 is to be able to live and give like no one else. If you look at this process, Ramsey Solutions indicates that over 10 million people have gone through the baby steps. And so it is a proven process. People always question it. People always have doubts about it. I can do this better than they can do this. This doesn't work. La 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 la. Well, I can tell you that we were $90,000 in debt back in 2017. We did this process. We were able to pay off all our debt in 14 months, and we've been debt-free ever since. So I have clients that are also through the different stages. And like I said, over 10 million people have done the baby steps. And so it is a process that works. So with that, before we jump into that, what I put together was there are 3 mental stages that a customer or prospect go through before signing on with myself or with another debt coach. And the first one is the resisting stage. This is where someone says, I can do this better than that. I'm okay. I don't need your help. Everything is great. Knowing that it is not great, their process is not working, they're in debt, they're behind on their bills, and they don't have a roadmap or a plan. The second one is the understanding stage, where people will sit down, talk to a debt coach, and actually understand the 7 baby steps and the value to each steps and why they are where they are in the process. The third step and stage is the acceptance stage. that is when people say, you know what, this does make sense. It's a process. It's methodical. It has, you can go through each stage or every step, knowing that you're one step closer to becoming debt-free, and it's a proven process. And if you see these two folks on the beach, they're happy, they're excited, they're debt-free. And that's my mission, to help people like fellow debt slayers like you to become debt-free. What you're doing right now is not working. You're still in debt. You're still behind on your bills. Car payments, I'm really surprised. Car payments are like $700 or $800 and higher. I know someone who has an $1,185 car payment. That's almost $1,200 just for a car, just for an automobile that once it leaves the dealership drops in value. I mean, that is the borrower being slave to the lender, i.e. the car dealership or to the bank. And it would be a better position of not being a borrower or a slave to the lender when you pay for everything, get out of debt, and you pay with cash. Cash is king. Oh, I need a FICO score. Oh, I need this. No, you don't. You don't at all. Once you get a credit card, you become a slave to that credit card company. Once you have a car payment, you are a slave to the car dealership auto finance company. If you save your money and you want to buy something, as long as it's cash, then fine. If you can't buy it this month and you have to wait 4 or 5 months, so be it. But it's better than bringing on all that debt. I have a client, and they were believers that they could pay off their credit cards every month and they would get points. Well, and I was talking to them about, paying cash. And in their mind, again, they were mentally in the resisting stage that their process was better than this process. And so I explained to them that if they have, in the course of a month, let's just say they do 10 transactions, and each transaction, the credit card company is going to charge them between 3 and 4% of using the card. I.e., if you go to a restaurant and the bill for cash is $30, they're going to add 3 or 4% onto that $30 for their fee. And you say, 3 or 4% isn't that big of a deal. It isn't with one dinner, bill. But if over the course of the month you use your credit card once a day, and there are 30 days in a month, and you have 3% of 30 transactions, you're getting up there. You're paying for interest for the convenience of using the credit card. And if you don't pay the whole balance off that month and it carries over, then you're paying 25 to 30% interest on top of that 3% interest for 30 transactions. And I hope you understand what I'm talking about. But again, the slave to the lender, you are always going to be, paying into the system. So, a lot of times people say, no, I'm good. Then they sit back and say, what we're doing really isn't correct. So the husband and wife sit down and they say, let's sit down and talk and understand what he's talking about. And when I go through the process and go through my value to my clients, then the customers usually sit back and say, this does make sense. It's a roadmap. It's a proven process. I can get on board with this. So, and that's when we start our debt-free journey. On the other side of this is that before starting this journey, you have to understand that this whole process is what I call the 80-20 rule. It's 80% mental, it's 20% physical. And what I mean by that is the way you've spent money over the past years is this way. And what you have to do when we sit down to talk about the value of my services in this roadmap is that you have a lot of changing of your buying habits, i.e. we get rid of a lot of the excess wasteful spending and cut out a lot of the spending that you put on credit cards. Going to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks and spending $6 for a coffee every day, and you put it on a credit card. Well, that's $6 times 7, that's $42 a week, and you times that by 4, and you're at for $160 plus a month. Times that by 12, you're over $1,100 a year just for one cup of coffee. So, there are habits like that need to be changed. So instead of buying a cup of coffee at Starbucks or buying it at Dunkin' Donuts, I'm just using those two as examples, I would suggest that you get a pot of coffee, get a big, large cup that you want, make your own coffee before you head off to work. I mean, it's that easy of changing from this way to that way. And again, it goes back to that 80% mental, 20% physical. And that's those types of habit changing tricks that I would teach you help you on your debt-free journey. Working on this process and working with your income and your outgo, we would know a specific date in the future based on numbers when you would become debt-free. That's house, car, credit cards, medical bills, tuition, home equity line of credit, personal debt, doesn't matter. All of it. Now, it might be a year, it might be 2 years, might be 5 years, might be 8 years. I know someone who it took them 9 years to pay off their balance, their debt, but they had a huge number, but they wanted to be debt free. So it can be done. You just have to get from the resistance stage to the listening stage and acceptance stage of, boy, this process makes sense. I can't bring you to the table. It's got to be you. When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's when I can help. But a lot of times people just go ahead and hang in with the sick and tireds and live with the anxiety, live with the stress, with the doubt, with the negativity and the high bills. Thinking that there's no way out. Well, I can tell you that I can help you with a process that works. And there's no opinions, there's no reservations, there's no questions. The numbers are what the numbers are. We work with your numbers. That's it. So, you and your spouse, if you're married or if you're, engaged or whatever, you should be talking about your debt. You should be sitting down at least once a week and talk about what bills you have. You should have a budget. People don't have budgets. And a lot of times I'll sit down with people and I'll say, what is your debt? And they don't know. And so therefore, if they don't know their debt, then you need a budget to say, my debt is this. This is And if you have a budget, then you know exactly what dollar goes to what bill. And that's how you manage money. We were never taught how to manage money or how to manage debt. When we were younger, we were always told, get a credit card, start a credit history, get a good FICO score, and buy a house. Well, credit card companies became wise and said, let's kill them with credit cards. Let's bring them in on low interest. They're not going to pay the bill off correctly, so we'll get 18 to 25%, and now it's up over 30. Some credit cards are 26.9, up over 30%, because people are not going to pay their bills. They have the computer and the AI to say 80% or 90% of our customers are not going to pay their bills on time, so we'll make money off of the interest. And if you think I'm incorrect, every quarter take a look at Capital One, take a look at MasterCard, take a look at American Express, Discover, Bank of America, Visa, all the banks and all the credit card companies, and how much money they are making and reporting every quarter. It's like billions and billions and billions of dollars. And if you look at their K1 reports, billions and billions of dollars are made from the interest on credit cards. Don't believe me? Fine. Look it up. Look it up. I think Visa is like $300 billion. MasterCard is in the $200 billion. They make 40, 50, 60 billion dollars a quarter. And that's just on interest, because they know that you're going to be the slave to the lender, and the lender is Visa and MasterCard and Capital One, and they have these catchy advertisements about what's in your wallet. Debt, high interest credit card debt is in your wallet. And as we pay off credit cards, what I did a video earlier this week. What you should do is, when you have a zero balance on your credit card and you have points on that, you should have them write you a check and send the check to you. You should take that check and you should put it towards the next balance on a credit card and pay that down faster. You should then, after you have a zero balance and they've issued a check for your points, then you should call that credit card company. You should cancel that card. You should write a letter to that credit card company telling them that you want that card to be canceled as of, I'm just using a date, August 25th, 2025. And then you should cut that credit card up and stop using it. Department store credit cards, Lowe's, Home Depot, Macy's, Target. Look at the paperwork on those credit cards. I will bet you that their interest rates are north of 32%. 32%. So every dollar you pay or you borrow, you're paying 32, maybe 35% interest. It is legalized, loan sharking. That's my opinion. So I could sit here all day and talk about debt and credit card interest, and 74% of, what did I read last week or last month? 74% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Look it up. Go on Google, type in what's the percentage of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Put in another line item if you want, and ask Google, what percentage of Americans have $1,000 savings account or emergency savings account? It's somewhere between 74 and 77% do not have $1,000 in a savings account for an emergency. Those numbers are staggering, and they're not my numbers, but I can quote them because they were on the internet, in either Bankrate or Bloomberg or NerdWallet have verified this through the statistics that they post. So You know, it is a mental process, and it is a rewarding process when you accept the fact that you're not going to use credit cards and you're going to pay off your debt. And it's like, I don't care if it's a hospital bill. I don't care if it's with the IRS. I don't care if it's a credit card bill, a tuition payment, a car payment, whatever. Give us a call. We'll sit down with you and talk to you. Not being current on your bills with a plan is the worst plan you could have. Having no plan is no plan at all. So, an emergency fund. I wanted to tell you, I have clients. They've now understand what I was talking about, but they started off with baby step 1. It took them a couple of months to save the $1,000 to get into the emergency fund. They set up a high yield savings account. Everything was good. They were paying down their credit cards, and after a couple of months, they decided that they deserved a weekend vacation. So what they did was they went to the bank. They took out $500 or $600 out of their emergency fund, and they went to downtown, wherever they were, and had a nice weekend at the hotel with dinners and all that stuff. And then the following week, they updated me on what they had done. And I said, well, why did you do that? And it was like, well, we didn't use a credit card, we paid cash. And again, they weren't on my page in reference to, this is for emergencies. So an emergency fund is money that is set aside for home or car emergencies. The car breaks down, tire flat, dishwasher's broken, leaky roof, air conditioner doesn't work. That is an emergency. You need to get it fixed. You need to get it fixed now. You don't want to put that on a credit card. What an emergency fund is not, in this case, being able to take money out and go away for a weekend vacation, or to go and buy a new pair of loafers, or to go and buy a watch or a suit or a skirt or a dress. That's not what this is for. So they had to sit back and start from scratch to rebuild their emergency fund and bring it back up to $1,000. And that slowed them down. But after they understood what this was and what this wasn't, and what they thought they were due, they finally understood what an emergency fund is. Now they understand that and they're on track now, but it isn't your savings. This is not a savings account. It's an emergency fund. And that's a big difference between that and a savings account that you could spend on yourself. So, this is something that, again, it's a mental process that you have to be willing to step up to the plate, and you're willing to pay off your bills. And what you've been doing hasn't been working because you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, as Dave Ramsey would say. It's one of those where you just have to sit back and say, how can I help you? And getting you from the resistance to the understanding to the acceptance that I know how to get and teach you to get out of debt. Sooner you can become debt free. So this is my calling. This is what I do. I help people. I'm a steward of helping people get out of debt, making you become less dependent on credit cards and on the lender. And when you have cash and you can pay for things with cash, then you don't need a credit card. Well, Steve, I do need a credit card for emergencies. Now, we already addressed that with the $1,000 emergency fund, and then the 3 to 6 month household emergency fund. So there is no reason for a credit card? Well, I want to keep my FICO score up. If you pay for cash and you have no debt, then it shouldn't matter whether you have a FICO score or not. Well, I want to keep my FICO score at 700, or people say, well, my FICO score is at 600. Well, why is it at 600? Well, I have a lot of debt. Okay, why is that? Well, I don't pay my bills on time. Huh? Okay. Do you have a process of how this is working or how you do? No. I have a process that can help you get out of that. If you want a high FICO score, fine. I'm not going to argue with you. We can work on that. Do you need 10 credit cards that are maxed out and you're paying 30% interest on? No. I'll have a debate with you all day long about credit card debt and car loan debt and tuition debt, and interest rates are through the roof. So if you pay off debt, then you don't have interest payments, which is just money that goes in their pockets. So this process works. It's been used by over 10 million people. I've helped hundreds of people with this process. Everyone's debt journey is totally different. So we're not going to try to stay up with the Joneses, because the Joneses are doing their own thing. If I can help you and show you how to get out of debt, then you're on your own path to success. We leave all the opinions, we leave all the heartache and all that at the door. From day one, we have a plan on how to get out of debt. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you learned something from this. I would really appreciate it if you would give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And if you know somebody who is in debt, which again, 72% I think of people are in debt, and Americans, not worldwide, but Americans. Share this video. We're at www.debtfreeresults.com. You can schedule a free 1-hour meeting with me. Again, it's free. You don't get free things in this world, but you get a free session with me, and we can understand what you're going through and see if my services can help you. So have a wonderful day. Pay cash. If you can't pay with cash, then don't pay for it and put it into your budget. If you don't have a budget, give me a call or send me an email, and we can help you with putting together a budget. If you're married, you should sit down with your spouse. You should talk about what bills he has and what bills you have, or vice versa. You should write them down so that you can see what you're working with. A lot of times clients come to me and I'll say, what bills or what debt do you have? And everyone has their numbers up here. If you had it written down, then when somebody says, like me, what debt do you have? You could say, I have X. I have this on the car, this on the tuition, I have this on this credit card, this credit card, this credit card, yada, 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 yada. So I hope this was helpful. Have a great day. Go out, take a walk, breathe in some fresh air, enjoy the sunshine. God bless. God bless you and your family. And if there is anything that I can help you with, please reach out to us and we'll help you out any way we can. Have a great day. Again, this is Stephen with Debt Free Results. Again, smash that like button, give us a thumbs up, share our video, and enjoy the day. All right, bye-bye.